So what I'm here, again, to remind you of, we're here to talk about innovation, creativity, and maybe most importantly, equality. And that starts with Bitcoin. It's the most powerful invention of my lifetime for sure, and it'll probably be the most powerful invention of your lifetime. It's going to revolutionize how we operate in the world completely. We are going to transfer money exclusively through cryptocurrency in the next 2 decades. Easily, maybe faster. When we're talking about and discussing building walls in California and across the entire United States, the blockchain is in the business of completely erasing borders. Woo! Erasing borders and allowing people to exchange money peer-to-peer from their phones. That's a phenomenal, phenomenal thing. This technology is going to change how we interact on every level. The status of the most vulnerable will be elevated because his mother or aunt or even father will be able to access resources in ways that they've never been able to do before. And trust me, they have cell phones. And there are cell towers all over the globe, even in very, very remote rural areas. So Bitcoin has the potential to increase the trajectory towards equality in ways that we've never seen before. What does that mean? It means that the blockchain and Bitcoin is the greatest thing we've ever known to date. I'm convinced. It knows no age. So guess what? You can transfer money if you're 77. It knows no gender, knows no socioeconomic status. So it doesn't matter if I live in extreme poverty or if I'm in the top 1%. It knows no sexual orientation. It knows no ability level. So the blockchain creates, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, anonymity. Bitcoin is a digital currency. The first Bitcoin was in existence in 2009. It was a result of 2008 crash in the economy when all the banks loaned money subprime and everything got lost. And who did we bail out? Did we bail out the people who were completely exploited? No. We bailed out the top 1%. We bailed out the bank, and that taught us, I don't trust banks. So of course I have a bank account, but I always think, oh my gosh, did Chase close? Are they like Macy's and they're like locking the door and keeping my money? So it doesn't actually look like coins. Bitcoin is a technology. It's a technology that interacts, and it's an exchange system. So it's an international exchange system. That means like from California or the United States, I can exchange money with somebody in Australia, Japan, China, even a very remote village in Africa or Asia. So like it's an ability to exchange money in ways we've never experienced before, because exchanging money is a phenomenally money-making business. And nobody wants us to have that control on our phones or in our pocket. However, okay, so let me explain this. Satoshi Nakamoto is a pseudonym. He's often referred to as a man. I like to think he's part woman. And probably a lot of women. He could be a group, she could be a group, she could be an individual. We don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but Satoshi Nakamoto presented a white paper describing what Bitcoin is in 2008-9, and that's when the first blockchain, Bitcoin, came into existence. That person or group became completely anonymous after that, because you will learn if you start to study Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that this is throwing the world into chaos a little bit, because disruptors do. And what happened is, I think that person or group decided, this is my contribution to the world, but I don't want credit for it, and I don't want to go to prison for it. Because power and money will send you fast to prison. All right. It's a centralized economy. We are not going to be held hostage or handcuffed anymore. It is a way we are getting rid of banks. We are taking our money away from banks because poverty it has a face, and often it's a woman's face. So women are, a centralized economy is a fiat currency. So when you hear the word fiat, that means dollars. That means this is fiat currency. This is your money in coins or dollar bills. And what happens is there's an unlimited supply of them. When the government starts to run out of fiat currency or money in the economy, they just print more. And guess what? Then our inflation goes up or down or whatever. All kinds of things happen. Interest rates go up. Money, dollar bills are controlled by governments. They're also controlled by regulations that are made by banks and governments and people in power. Bitcoin is not like that, and neither are other currencies. They are controlled by you and you and you and me and each one of us individually. We decide. We'll talk more about that as we move down the road. Centralized, decentralized economies. This is what the blockchain looks kind of like. I fear totalitarianism. This is a response and the answer to getting away from what we are experiencing as totalitarianism in a financial situation. The decentralized blockchain is just a network of autonomous computers, and they just speak to each other. There are people on the other side, and they verify transactions on a ledger, a public ledger, that everybody can go back and check if they want to. Like, the average bear is not going back and checking the ledger because it's going to be really complicated. However, it can be verified and checked, but the technology allows for it to not be hacked. It's one public code, it's one private code, and there's a limited supply. We'll talk about Bitcoin only. A limited supply of Bitcoin. So it's regulated by supply and demand. That's it. There's no person saying, oh, we need new rules and laws and this and that. It is supply and demand. So does anybody know how many Bitcoin are in existence in the world? 21 million Bitcoin in existence in the world today and forever. Now, it's not a dollar, but if it were, I could take that one Bitcoin, and disperse it into 1 million pieces. So it can be broken down into a piece of a Bitcoin to 1 millionth of a Bitcoin. But there are 21 million in existence, and that's all there will ever be. So this is going to disrupt the government. This is going to disrupt the world. It's already disrupting all governments. As you probably hear in the news, it's a bubble. China's regulating it. India's not going to allow Bitcoin. Oh, the Japanese had 800 Bitcoin stolen. So there's a lot of scare going on. However, that's because when people get scared, it's because they don't have control anymore. That's the clinical psychology side. So, all right. So, I love this slide, and this is what drove me to get into Bitcoin to some degree, because I have to have a reason for what I'm interested in. And so between innovation, creativity, and equality, this is my life mission, are women and children living in poverty, no matter where they are in the world. And so there are 7.5 billion people on the planet. 1 billion of those people have bank accounts. They have access to the economy. They have access to our financial systems. That leaves 6.5 billion people in the world with no access. Now let's take that a step further. And what we have are women, 1 in 3 women, who are not even allowed to, even if they bring money into their household, they're not allowed to use that money. They have to turn it over to their husband, their brother, their father, their grandfather, a man in the family. So if you have no bank account, no credit history, no way of doing business in a modern economy, how do you elevate from extreme poverty? This is our mission in the world. Bitcoin is not about us. It is not about anybody who has a debit card or a credit card or a checkbook or a bank account right here. Bitcoin is about them. The 6.5 million people who are going to be brought into the economy, the global economy without borders, and what's going to happen, because creativity and innovation are not locked into just people with bank accounts. Creativity and innovation exists across the board. We are bringing into the fold 6.5 billion people who have creative and innovative and brilliant minds. And now they're going to have access to money and grow things. So I love the word, I just want to say it, unbanked. I want this to be your new word. People are unbanked in the world. That's important to know because we take it totally for granted that we have access. Disruption. This might be my favorite slide because I think disruption is amazing. I love disruption, and it happens in our world often, or not often actually, but it has happened with the telephone. Look, with the telephone in the 1910, 1920, it took 10, 20, 30, 40, it took, 40 years for it to completely catch on. Disruptions happen because we need something new. We need to change things up. And so when there's a disruption in the universe, when there's a disruptor happening, there are no experts. There is no history of Bitcoin. We don't have a history. We know what's happened since the first one came into existence, 2009. It's not even a decade. And nobody used it then. Everything is speculation. And so we're making educated guesses and calculated risks. So disruptions, though, happen. And in the past, they took time. They took a long time to take hold. Like, let's just pick up cars. They didn't invent a car and say, oh yeah, everybody's got a car now. Like, there's 18 car lots on Blackstone. No, it was like, you got a car, whoa, we might need to regulate that for starters. Are you even allowed to drive your car? Which I saw a thing on the other day, which was fascinating. Like, they made you have people walk in front of your car, like at the beginning of cars, because they didn't control. But down here, we've got smartphones, tablets, social media, HD TV. I'm not really sure what HD TV does, but it's a thing. And I have it, but it just happens. So these things have taken on in very short periods of time, less than a decade, less than 5 years. They have picked up, and guess what? Even though somebody may live in a very remote part of the world, they have access to cellular phones. And that is the greatest disruptor that leads us to Bitcoin. Boop. All right. Innovation, boom. Innovation is like the rock star of all rock stars. It happens, and innovation is born out of the need for change. We have to change how we do finances in order to make this world more equal. And you know how they say innovation is the mother of invention? So Satoshi Nakamoto invented Bitcoin and the first blockchain. So because we got tanked in 2008 when a whole bunch of 1%ers and the government in our land of the free took us to our knees. So the phenomenal part about blockchain technology and Bitcoin is that it's anonymous. And now, who's heard of Silk Road? Okay, so who's heard, like, we make this so scary and so, whoa. But anonymity is good. If you don't know if I'm a man or a woman, if you don't know if I have lots of money or no money, if you don't know what my credit history is, guess what? We are on level playing field when we are talking about money. Institutionalized racism cannot exist when you are talking about anonymity. It just is what it is. So you are reduced to a 30+ alphanumeric number, which oftentimes, like in prison, you don't want to be reduced to a number. But in the banking system, you do. You're just that number. However, it also comes with a consequence. Because you are your own bank, that means you are now responsible for your own money. And that means if you mess up with your 30-character alphanumeric number and your seed words and all your things that make you a walking bank, you could lose your money. Huh? That is not as scary as as it seems. However, it does require us to take on a whole new level of personal responsibility. Because I just had a check stolen about 2 months ago, and I called Chase and said, hey, somebody stole a check out of somebody's mailbox and put their name on it and cashed it. And they're like, oh, call the police, come on in, and we'll give you your money back. Yeah, I didn't have to chase the criminal down. I didn't have to find the person who stole my check. They gave me my money back because they are responsible for, they are the ones who cashed it though. Come on, because if Trace was his name, came to me and tried to cash my check, I would have said, hey, I'm the bank. I don't know you. I did not write you that check, so no. So it was their job to give me my money back. All right, this is kind of what an online wallet looks like. It's my wallet. It's not really my wallet. This is your alphanumeric number, numbers and letters. That's your Bitcoin address. These are your transactions, total received, total sent, find your balance. You can do it with a QR code or the number. Transparency. Everyone plays by the same rules. There are no different, the banks don't play by different rules than everybody else. Executives don't play by different rules. We all play the same game. So, because transactions are verified multiple times on the blockchain, it's very, very difficult to alter or hack. And now you guys know way more about that than I do. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've been hacked. I don't really even know what it means. I just know it's bad. So, we're at the point of change. Technology, Bitcoin is going to change the way we do not just banking. Banking is just the first thing. Currency is the first thing it's going to do. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to change the way we exist on the planet. It's going to change everything we do. And my optimism about that brings me back to creativity, innovation, and elevating the lives of women and children and people in extreme poverty around the world. And becoming more like one rather than building walls and separating. So, change. When something happens, no matter how badly somebody wants to change Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and make it go away like it doesn't exist, you cannot make juice and turn it back into oranges. It doesn't happen. Those are really tangerines, but you can't make it go back into its thing. It's going to reduce disparity. Women across the globe are, oh, that face, yummy. Can't help it. It's going to allow the disparity gap to be closed. I hope in my lifetime, but at least in my granddaughter's lifetime. The disparity of the economy will be narrowed and closed. So I want to share some research with you. Women have very little economic power, and so when 1 in 3 women don't have access to their money in their household, There's no way to elevate there's nothing you can really do about that. However, women, when they do control the money in their household, they spend it on things that make their families better and their children's lives better. So they spend it on things like healthcare. They spend it on things like nutritious food, and they spend it on things like education. So every second of every day, we get to decide who we want to be and how we want to be. And you can change that at any second. I love this slide because today I'm hoping that this conversation is going to elevate your thinking about, whoa, it is not about Fresno. This is not about our 1 billion. This is about our 7.5 billion people on the planet. Remember, cryptocurrency has no awareness of gender or personal identity. So everybody's open to the economy. This is it's not about excluding men. This is about inclusion of everybody. This is about allowing for things to be equal. But when things happen that are vulnerable, when there's a disruption and it's going on, innovations they happen much faster. And what happens when there's an innovation, the world panics. And because we feel vulnerable, we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with cryptocurrency. I don't know what to do with a Bitcoin. And so these are scary ideas. But trust me, remember when a cell phone was a friggin' scary idea? Or how about the internet? Like, I think VHS and Betamax came into existence when I was in high school. So like those were scary ideas. Now I feel like I can't leave my house without my phone. So we will, and cryptocurrency will become just as normal as your debit card because it's on your phone. Altcoins. Fancy way of saying alternative coins. We have Bitcoin. It was #1. It was the beginning. It's got the big name brand. Alternative coins, there are 1,400 plus, give or take a few, different alternative coins. You may have heard of a few of them. Ripple, Litecoin, some really obscure ones like Potcoin, or there's DentaCoin, because coins have a job. Their job is that they have a utility about them. They're not used the same way that we use dollars for everything. They're used for what they have utility for. So we're talking about a disruption. We're talking about changing the whole way we think about money and the economy. So it's gonna take some leaping, but slowly but surely we're all gonna be on board. It's a huge opportunity. Who's heard you can make $1 million doing Bitcoin? Who's been on that train? All right, so yes, that is true, and there are risks with every reward. And when there's a crisis, there's always an opportunity. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are no different. However, I want to share with you, this is a phantom portfolio that I created back early before November. In November, the phantom portfolio was actually worth $426,000, 25 altcoins from Bitcoin to Doge. If you know what a Doge coin is, it's like a fake coin. In February, it was 100,000. On February 5th, on the 6th, it was 127,000. On the 7th, it was 141,000. And yesterday, it was 120,000 again. So you have to be able to tolerate those changes and shifts because volatility is high. Bitcoin in October sold for $2.22. In December, and that was in 2011, in December it sold for just under 20 grand for one of those 21 million Bitcoin, or a part of one. And in March, it sells today at about $9,000. So it's a highly volatile business, and but you can start to step into it easily. My passion, again, lies in the intersection of innovation, creativity, and equality. So the other morning I woke up and I decided I am writing a book, not a real big fat book. This is the book I'm writing. It says Charlie Rose to the Moon, because to the moon means it's going up It means cryptocurrency is going up. So you'll hear people say, hey, Bitcoin to the moon, Ethereum to the moon. So this book in 2019, I want you to watch for it, is going to be called Charlie Rose to the Moon. This right here is Charlie Rose. That right there is Charlie Rose. So remember, she's the reason I'm here, partly. So I believe in Leave a Life Print Legacy. Strong women, may we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them. We have a legacy to leave. We all do. I call it a life print. I challenge each one of you today, every one of you, male or female, to totally embrace this revolution, this innovation, and find how you fit into the equation. Where do you fit into it? You're going to be part of it. So figure out how you fit into this equation and what you can do with this technology to support and elevate the other 6.5 billion people in the world. So our adventure awaits, and there we go. Woo.